Yeah, I think there's going to be a number of Buffalo media on this call. I reached out to 10 of my contacts and heard back from 3 or 4 of them. So I think,
Thank you.
yeah. Move it. I see Spectrum is on, and I'm great. Channel 4 is on. I think WBEN is going to join us.
They're on.
Wonderful. Great.
They're on.
The media in Buffalo has done such a stellar job documenting, this
Morning, Jay.
Morning. Morning, Bob.
Good morning, Jay. Let's wait a few minutes for anybody who's late. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was trying to get on my
No problem.
computer, but it's not working on that, so I got to use my phone.
It's great to see you, Jay.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you on here.
Good to see you, too.
It's been a little while.
It has. Oh, now my computer seems to be working, but we'll stay with the phone. How's everybody doing?
Bring it in, Jim. Jay, rather. Yep.
You're looking good, Bob. You described health problems in their email, but you look very healthy.
Thanks very much. I'm doing okay.
Good.
Thanks be to God.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff going on, so
Yeah.
I think we need to do better on our planet,
Yeah.
treat it better.
Yeah.
Much better.
Yeah, for sure.
How was the breathing in Buffalo last week? I'm living down in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania now, and we really got socked with those wildfires, and everybody had to stay in. It was really awful, but I think Buffalo got hit harder. Jay, what was it like for you?
Well, I was not here for most of it. I was on vacation. That's why I didn't write about the Nowak stuff previously. So I did catch the tail end of it, and it wasn't too bad at that point. It had already calmed down some. So the worst of it I did not experience, but I think it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
And Boston got hit hard too.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And
A lot of people are complaining about scratchy throats, sore throats, etc.
Sure.
I hope you didn't go on vacation in Canada, Jay.
I did. I was in Canada, but I was in Quebec. So
you're probably safe.
I first was in Lake Placid, and then I went up to Quebec, and so I avoided all that. Like if you were to look at the maps, we were out of it the whole time. Thankfully, I mean, I just talked to some friends yesterday who are taking a trip to Michigan's Upper Peninsula, and I think they're getting it now. And they were kind of concerned. I mean, it's not until the end of this week, but they were kind of concerned that they're going right into the heart of it. But I think maybe by the time they leave to go there, I don't know why I have these on. By the time they leave to go there, maybe it'll clear out by then.
Yeah. Why don't we begin? Okay. Hello, I'm Attorney Mitchell Garabedian. I've been representing clergy sexual abuse survivors for decades worldwide. I currently represent 45 clergy sexual abuse survivors in the Diocese of Buffalo bankruptcy. With me today is Robert Hoatson, a sexual abuse survivor and former Catholic priest. He runs Road to Recovery, a nonprofit that helps victims of sexual abuse. And I know Jim Faluszczak is here today too. Jim's a courageous survivor. How are you, Jim?
Mitchell, thanks be to God and thanks to you for your advocacy. I can be here today, and I'm grateful to you and for the opportunity to stand with you.
You're courageous, man. Thank you. We're here today to discuss the circumstances involving the Diocese of Buffalo and Father Jeffery Nowak. What is a concern is, what did the Diocese of Buffalo know about Father Jeffery Nowak, and when did they learn it? It reportedly, the diocese knew in 2019 that Father Jeffery Nowak had problems interacting with seminarians, for instance. And the supervision, once again, comes into question. What did Bishop Malone, Bishop Schaffenberger, and Bishop Fisher know about Jeffery Nowak, which would lead to wonder what's in the Canon Law 489 files? The Canon Law 489 files are files that are kept by a diocese. And the only person who has access to those files is the bishop.
Yep.
He has the sole lock and key. Those the documents in the Canon Law 489 files are highly sensitive, and they contain documents of quote, unquote, scandal, unquote. It is time for Bishop Fisher to release publicly what is in those Canon Law 489 files concerning Father Jeffery Nowak and every other priest. Father Jeffery Nowak seems to be walking trouble. He was ordained in 2012, and since 2012, he was transferred to St. John Vianney Parish, then Mary Queen of Angels Catholic School, then St. Vincent de Paul Church, and Our Lady of Help of the Christians Church. He was from 2016 to 2017, excuse me. From 2016 to 2017, Father Jeffery Nowak, according to the official Catholic directory, was assigned to Mary Queen of Angels Catholic School. In other words, he was in the presence of children. It is very important for the healing of clergy sexual abuse survivors and for the safety of children that the Catholic Church come clean and tell us the truth and practice transparency. What is in this Canon Law 489 secret files about Jeffery Nowak? What did the church do to protect children, or what didn't they do? It is very important for survivors to hear from Bishop Fisher so that the healing process can take place. I think it's time for Bishop Fisher to own it and produce what's in those Canon Law 489 files. He has the sole lock and key to those files because of the nature of the information in there, which is very sensitive and which is scandalous. Bob, why don't you give us a few comments?
Well, Mitch, as you said, unless the 489 files are released internationally by the church, nothing in the church will change. Imagine assigning a priest, which, by the way, this is very extraordinary. When he left St. John Vianney in Orchard Park, there must have been something in there that forced him to be assigned, believe it or not, to a school. That's highly irregular, and he was the administrator of the school. Now, in those days, there were plenty of people, in a sense, to staff those schools. And they didn't need to take a diocesan priest out of diocesan ministry and put him in charge of a school, which meant to me that they were putting the fox inside the hen house. And it's just unbelievable. And nothing will change in the church. I don't know if you were aware of this, but during the recent bishops' meeting, they revised the charter, the Dallas Charter, and they revised it to favor priests over children. So they're doing exactly the same thing they've done for centuries. And we're here in 2026, and we were here how many years ago in Buffalo, trying to get things done. And still the Buffalo victims are still being re-victimized and re-traumatized.
Now, in 2019, according to reports, there was a report to the diocese of the misbehavior with regard to at least a seminarian by Father Jeffery Nowak. What safeguards did the bishop have in place to protect individuals, adults or children, from Bishop Nowak since 2019? Excuse me, I think Jay got lost there. Jay, you back with us?
I am. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, we're asking for the release of the canon law secret files publicly of Jeffery Nowak to protect children, to keep children safe, to help victims try to heal. It's my understanding that in typical fashion, the diocese is cutting ties with Father Jeffery Nowak. Well, who's going to be watching them after they cut ties with him? The diocese has an obligation to continue watching Jeffery Nowak in an appropriate fashion, in an appropriate manner, and not to practice cover-up. Apparently, after the report in 2019, the diocese thought they would have no problem with Father Jeffery Nowak. Meanwhile, he's been arrested on child pornography charges. So who has been watching Father Jeffery Nowak since 2019? And how are they watching? How are they supervising Father Jeffery Nowak? Bob, do you have anything else to add?
Well, in addition, Mitch, he was arrested, supposedly, allegedly, at his father's house. Now, if the church is supposed to be in charge of him, why was he living at his father's house? Maybe they put him on administrative leave, but they should have been monitoring him very, very closely. And by the way, this is the usual modus operandi of the church. Some priests are taken out of ministry and they go to rectories to live. Some priests are taken out and sent to supposedly rehab centers, but there is no accountability or process. There's no process to making children the priority here. They're always making the priest and the diocese and their image and their assets their priority.
Jim, would you like to say a few words?
From my perspective, it gives me grief to know that the advocacy of the people on this call led to the closing of Christ the King Seminary. Okay, the official seminary of the Diocese of Buffalo. You have to recognize that Jeffery Nowak, Father Jeffery Nowak, was a protege of Father Joseph Gatto. Gatto is presently on leave over the suicide of somebody that was in his care. And Gatto supervised Nowak when he was in the seminary. And that's the part that I have difficulty with. That's my perspective, because that was my seminary. That was where I went to school and had a good experience with most of the faculty there and the formation team, except for Joe Gatto, who I knew was molesting seminarians when he was my formation director. And when he became rector, it was the reason a principal reason why I left the priesthood was once Joe Gatto became rector of Christ the King Seminary. Perhaps all of that is an aside to, or a prelude, really, to the fact that he was the supervisor of Father Jeffery Nowak. He was his formation director. He was the rector of the seminary. He made decisions about whether Nowak would be ordained. My concern is about the culture of the Diocese of Buffalo. I love Buffalo, and I love the Diocese of Buffalo. I have served within the Diocese of Buffalo. I have demonstrated with Bob and with Mitchell in Buffalo for the purpose of drawing out the truth of what happened alongside attempts to bring the gospel to bear on the life of the Diocese of Buffalo. And it is an abomination that alongside any good deed that anybody tried to do, you or me, that this guy, Piggy666, in on his social media, as the news reports suggest, that that guy grew out of the same seminary culture that I tried to call to accountability. It makes me sick, but you can understand that Jeffery Nowak is a product of the sick, twisted culture of Christ the King Seminary and Father Joseph Gatto.
Sitting here today, 2026, talking about how the diocese knew that Father Nowak in 2019 was having problems with other individuals by acting inappropriately. And having Father Nowak now arrested on pornography charges indicates that nothing has changed within the Diocese of Buffalo. Bishop Fisher has to understand, to be trusted by the public, you have to earn the public's trust. But allowing this priest, Father Nowak, to watch child pornography and receive child pornography and possess child pornography in violation of federal criminal laws tells me that Bishop Fisher in the Diocese of Buffalo just does not care about earning the public trust and keeping children safe. Nothing has changed within the Catholic Church. I'm often told I will not, through my actions, change the Catholic Church. But what we are doing today is making the public aware that the public has to watch their children when they're in the care and custody of priests. To earn the trust, Bishop Nowak has to climb a steep hill. And to begin that climb, he has to publicly release the Canon Law 489 files, which contain documents, sensitive documents, and scandalous documents concerning Father Nowak.
Bob Mitchell, we have stood outside of the Catholic Center in Buffalo together since 2018. They have had every opportunity to come clean, to fix what's wrong with what should be a noble institution, and they just still don't get it. If you look at the diocesan press release that Bishop Fisher put out the other day, he was prevaricating over, well, we tried to do something when y'all called this out in 2018, 2019. They still gave him partial salary. They still gave him a place to live. They still kept him under their auspices. Boy, I wish that, as a whistleblower, I sure wish that my bishop had done that for me. And they're still giving abusers, they're giving criminals benefits, and have been doing it for years. Bishop Fisher came in as perhaps initially a breath of fresh air after Scharfenberger and Malone. But he knew about all of this. He knew about Nowak. He knew about the culture within his diocese. I have spoken to him personally about it, and he did nothing.
And that's the main issue. I think the main issue is, as Mitch said, we are not, unfortunately, going to take the church and change it, because they're not going to change. But we're here to educate.
Sadly, yeah.
That children are not safe anywhere in the church. And the church continues, especially during this past Easter season, to attract more and more people to come to the Catholic faith. And kids are not safe. They're not safe until we get transparency.
Are there any questions?
And zero tolerance, Bob. I would just add, there ought to be zero tolerance around these issues. Not just for priests and the offenses that they commit, but the bishops that cover it up. There should be zero tolerance. Amen. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Any questions?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can now.
It's Jay Tokaz. So, the diocese, I checked back with them again today because I wasn't here last week, but, there is a, there's a difference between, harassment of a seminarian and child sexual abuse or possession of child pornography.
Right.
It's a pretty big difference.
I disagree, Jay. I disagree. There's a red flag. Once there's a red flag, whether it's alcoholism or harassment of a seminarian, the red flag is there. And the diocese has an obligation to watch that perpetrator, to watch Father Nowak. They know that he harassed a seminarian. They know that they knew that in 2019. So they had an obligation to keep a close eye on him. Now, for those who don't think that, the proof is in the pudding. He just got arrested for child pornography. So we know about the accusation concerning harassment of a seminarian. Release the Canon for Law 489 files and let us know what else he has been accused of before or after 2019. Why was he transferred from location to location? There has to be an explanation for that. There's a reason for that. I respectfully disagree, Jay. There's a red flag here just for us. What else do they know that they're not telling us about? When I say they, I mean the Diocese of Buffalo or Bishop Fisher. What else is in those files? Did Bishop Malone know something? Did Bishop Schaffenberger know something? Are there other accusations which they've covered up? And they do, and the diocese has a history of covering this up. That's a known fact. That's undisputable.
Mitchell.
See, the other thing, Jay, is that my own novice master abused a person ahead of me, and he eventually put a bullet in his head, committed suicide because of the abuse. So, my abuse started by my first superior, and it just set me off on a PTSD path that was incredible. So, I think it's the nature of abuse, period.
And Jay,
and we see that in the episode.
And let me also say that I once had a case, not in Buffalo, but in another diocese, where the priest had a temper, and he was accused of child abuse. And it was shown that the church should have watched this man with this ugly temper because he was abusing children. There was something wrong with him emotionally. So it's a red flag. But my point is, again, what else do they know about Father Nowak? And when did they learn it? So they had to watch him closely.
And Jay, you and I have talked multiple times about the distinction between molesting children, which obviously is of grave concern, but the church's, you and I, our church's canon law does not adequately distinguish crimes against children versus crimes against vulnerable adults. So even though we're talking about the abuse of a seminarian, Jay, we're talking about a vulnerable adult. We're talking about somebody who's under the authority of others. We're talking about somebody who's trying to prepare for ordination. And the church's rules and regulations to this day, under Pope Francis, under Pope Leo, has still not adequately addressed, from a canonical standpoint, that type of crime. You are a Christian. You are a Catholic. You know that behavior is wrong. It shouldn't have to be described as criminal, but it is. It does not matter that the child pornography issue is huge. It's criminal, but the fact that he did this to a seminarian who is preparing for ordination under the auspices of Father Joseph Gatto. Okay, you know the culture. You should know by now that this is not a delict against canon law. This is a delict against Christ.
Let Jay intervene here. Let Jay answer.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, the diocese, we've been through this before, but in 2019, they removed him from all active ministry. I mean, he wasn't, in effect, a priest at all the last, 6-7 years. He wasn't serving in a church. He wasn't, now your point about monitoring, is something, I'd like to follow up on, because, they did have a monitoring program in place for other credibly accused priests, but involving minors. But they did not have him in that monitoring program.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Jay, we don't know what other problems there were with Father Nowak till they released the contents of the secret files. We don't know. We do know that the diocese covers up sexual abuse, wrongful conduct by priests, and hopes it goes away. But we don't know what else is in those secret files. Why was he transferred from parish to parish to parish from 2013 to 2020? Were they getting him out of Dodge? We don't know. That's why the release of the secret files is so critical. The public release of those files.
Jay, you said he wasn't on a monitoring program.
Not,
Right?
my understanding
Right.
is he was not part of the AG's, you know, monitoring program.
Right. But he is a priest this very day. He's a priest.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's a priest until he's laicized, right?
And what is happening with that process? That's another part of the secret files. You know, then the laicization process, some priest takes 10 years or they appeal it, and then it takes another 5 years, so it's got to be opened up, but it's a closed secret.
It only took until the last week for Bishop Fisher to say he's not ours. You know, they cut his salary, they, you know, cut his residency, everything else. Canonically, he is every bit a priest of the Diocese of Buffalo.
Right. And technically, Fisher has a duty to support him until he's not a priest. Technically,
because you and Bob, you and I, you know, we got fired.
I was thrown out, and nothing happened.
And
so,
you know, they cut our salaries, they cut our health care, they cut our benefits, but they give it to the perpetrators.
Jay has a question.
Do either of you, Bob or Jim, do you receive any sustenance from the church?
In 2011, I applied for laicization from the priesthood, and the bishop was thrilled. And since that very moment, I have not received a penny from the Catholic Church. And I was in ministry for 16 years, so I don't even get a pension. So I have nothing, and I got nothing from the church.
Technically, I am vested in my pension after, I forget, it was 14 years or something like that. But I think it was about a year and a half after I left ministry. It was just on the verge of my testimony before the grand jury that in Pennsylvania, that Bishop Persico of Erie cut me off completely. He had given me sustenance, if you want to call it that, for about 18 months after I left ministry, but refused me a place to live. And once he knew I was testifying, cut me off completely. So, and I've got a canonical right. I've got all kinds of, you know, not just, I've got employment rights cases against the Diocese of Erie for what they did to me. I've received nothing from them in at least eight or 10 years.
Mm-hmm. They have not pursued laicization, and you have not, right?
Oh, I never will. First of all, it's not, I'm not going to play their game, but I will. It's hard to say it without somehow breaking down. I will never not see myself as a priest.
So, I mean, they should be paying you sustenance.
Of course. Yeah, they should be. Yeah, they should be. And it's hard to stomach. It's hard to stomach that alongside any number of Buffalo priests that are on their list, even their own list that they've put out to the public, that they continue to pay pension to and retirement to and give residence to and everything else. Yeah, that's tough to take, Jay.
Jay, what you're seeing here is the typical PR spin of the Diocese of Buffalo trying to distance themselves from the criminal priest. That's what we see all the time. Now that it's public, now that the charges are public, and now that there's going to be a trial in a criminal court, the entity here, the Diocese of Buffalo, will try to distance themselves from the defendant priest, the priest who has committed the crimes, because it's bad for business. They didn't distance themselves from this priest in 2019. They just did it now, and now they're trying to for the first time. And this is typical with dioceses and archdioceses and religious orders around the world. Once the heat is turned on, the diocese will distance themselves from the priest, from the criminal acts of the criminal priest, and will then stir up a PR campaign of, we did everything we could, we're victims here, we're trying to help the poor. They'll try to put a positive spin on themselves. This is seen time and again in any jurisdiction you can go into in the world. Just release what's in the canon law files publicly. Let us see what's in there, what you knew, when you knew it, and what you did about it. It's not any more complicated than that. Right. Now, we're dealing with an entity for centuries has practiced cover-up. So there's no reason not to believe that this practicing cover-up here once again with Father Nowak.
And it's not just about Father Nowak. It is about Bishop Fisher. And to paraphrase you, Mitchell, as you've eloquently said other times, take away their robes, take away their sanctuaries, take away the trappings of office. They are criminals. Father Nowak is not the only criminal in this matter.
Are there any other questions? Sorry to cut you off, Jay, earlier. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be proud.
Thank you, Mitchell. Ugh.